I know this one's been a while, and once again, I apologize. I live with my family. There's not much I can do about their conversations. So, here we go with part two of What If Deku was an alter user. It's been 2 months since Tenya took All Might up on his offer. In that time, his speed has increased and his body can handle more rapid acceleration before breaking down. As far as how much of One for All he can take at this point, we're going to say that he can handle about 15%. All he needs now is to train with someone that is as fast, if not faster, than he is. That's when he thought about Deku's chauffeur, Straight Cougar, with his alter, Radical Good Speed. He was capable of speed that until Tenya received One for All, he couldn't even imagine getting anywhere near. That's when Tenya pitches the idea to All Might, but there's one hiccup. He couldn't lie to Deku. Deku can read Tenya like a book and has been able to since they first met. He also he couldn't bear continually lying to his bruh. Very well, young Ida. Besides, his father is one of the few in the know anyways. It helps that they're having a few people over. There hasn't been a Midoriya ball in ages. Those were the days. Toshinori removed himself from memory lane. This revelation lifted the weight off Tenya's shoulders. Now I know Tenya wouldn't use his quirk in public because he has a massive stick up his... He's a stickler for the rules. But All Might said it was part of his training and had got him a temporary permit of sorts. Want to race, All Might? At current, it was cold, but not freezing. Both of them were wearing some level of thermal protection, so why not have a little fun? All Might smiles at Tenya and says, "You're on, kid. First to Midoriya Manor, I presume?" He knew full well that they were both invited to the small gathering. He was a long-standing friend of Atsuhiko, and Tenya was Izuku's best friend. Tenya gave a nod, and they both took off. Tenya had been working on his version of full cowling, which I'm going to call twin turbo, since engine's in his legs. I know I'm going a little fast with this, but keep in mind, Tenya's had a quirk his entire life, unlike Izuku. So there's that. He doesn't really use One for All to boost his strength. He just uses it to push himself to further speeds. Right now, with an imperfect version of his twin turbo, he's pushing 250 miles per hour, somewhat safely. All Might, however, is taking his usual jump route. They both frequent the manor often, so I'm gonna say they have their own routes to get there quickly. Tenya actually beats All Might by the skin of his teeth. Cut to the Midoriya bath to see Deku and Katsuki having a relaxing bath, while a few maids await orders from their master. Mitsuki is the head maid, but Katsuki runs her generation. One of her duties is to accompany Deku into the bath and groom her master. You can't keep this secret hidden forever, my lord. Eventually, it shall come to light. Deku says something along the lines of, "I'll cross that bridge when I get there." A knock comes to the door. Enter. Deku sprawls to a seated position while wearing a smug look. Deku loved the authority, but made a point not to abuse it. "Apologies, master. Sir Ida is here, accompanied by Lord Toshinori, to see you. I had them escorted to the main sitting room. Shall I prepare your usual garb?" That's when a smile hit Deku's face. "Hikari, prep my battle dress." Hikari was smiling ear to ear. Let me give you a small description of Hikari, one of the OCs I'll be introducing here. she is Midnight's daughter, so there's that. However, her face looks similar to Midnight, but that's about it. She got her looks from her daddy. So blonde hair, gorgeous blue eyes, and she's got an altar that we're gonna call right. Pardon my French, my literal French. It's not that good. Soleil de Papillon is what we're going to call it, or for short, Papillon or Papillon, which is like forms of butterflies. She can scatter these butterflies, and like Midnight, it's a pheromone type deal. But unlike Midnight, she can use these to control people's moods. So instead of causing them to sleep, you can make an angry person calm down if there's enough of a pheromone in there, which is why she's pretty good with handling Deku. An angry Zetsui is no joke. So an angry Deku is very, very dangerous. She's only really had to calm Deku down when Atsuhiko did something incredibly stupid. And I may tell you about that, I may not. She also custom makes all of Deku's clothes for a reason you're gonna find out in a bit. I'll fetch it at once, master. Deku sighs. Katsuki, did I just ring a bell that can't be unrung? Katsuki giggled, and that was all the answer Deku needed. They got out and were dried off and handed robes. I suppose it's time I face the music. There's no way I can talk Hikari down now that she's gotten so excited. Deku saw the girls, who were all extremely happy at this point. Did she use her altar on you lot, or are you just that happy that I'm finally wearing that thing? Deku again asked a question that didn't need answered. Deku was not looking forward to this. Mitsuki would be delighted, though. Hikari arrived at Deku's room with the most gorgeous green dress in the world. Are you ready to be dressed, Lady Izumi? That's right, y'all. Deku in this is female. I know I described her as a he, but you'll find out why in a bit. Once again, I apologize. I live with my family. I can't really do much about that. Alright, back to the story. Lady Izumi, you're going to have to remove those wrappings. Izumi is hesitant, and then Mitsuki enters the room. You're not backing out of this now, little girl. Time for a debutante befitting the future matriarch of House Midoriya. Mitsuki displays a rather lovely brassiere that hands that to Izumi. It always surprises me how you manage to hide the girls, but you're done with that. They get her dressed, and then Katsuki comes in to do her hair. As far as the dress goes, if you've ever seen her in a Gundam, remember Laura Roller? Laura Rolla? We're going with a dress similar to that. Someone came in with a corset and is promptly shooed out. Deku didn't need that. She's gonna be the type of girl that some girls will low-key hate because she doesn't have to put that much effort into the sake of beauty. They would make an impromptu debutante. Luckily enough, the Midoriya household had a massive amount of clout. It was tradition for the mistress of the household to hold parties and maintain the family's social status, with all of Japan fooled to believe that the female twin died paired with how Inko died. Midoriya Manor has been closed to the general public for some time. They would once again open their doors. Mitsuki had been planning slightly outside her station. She had tired of the farce Deku had been forced into for Inko's sake. Atsuhiko also began to believe the lie that they had been telling since she was in the first grade. She wanted to punch Inko, but and didn't speak to Atsuhiko for weeks. It was bad enough that the lie was so ingrained into her mind that until recently, when Izumi looked in the mirror, she saw her brother. Mitsuki was happy that her young mistress could finally be who she wanted to be. Like I said, Mitsuki was making plans to force Atsuhiko's hand in the matter, but now that Izumi has made the order herself, she can make a series of phone calls that'll have all of high society at the manor by nightfall. A Midoriya party? No one in their right mind would say no to that. After dressing Izumi herself, something that made Hikari pout, one death glare shut that down. Izumi asked to have one of her eyes covered. No way, dear. This is about Izumi Midoriya, beautiful heiress of House Midoriya. Let those wonderful heterochromic eyes come out to play. For those of you who have no idea what heterochromia is, it's when someone has two different colored eyes. The twins are fraternal, but they shared more than just looking somewhat similar. Izuku had a blue right eye and a green left eye. Flip that around and you have Izumi. One additional boon from this was that she could stop wearing those contacts. She hated looking in the mirror and seeing Izuku, and Mitsuki knew that. By the time she was done, any semblance of Izuku would shatter to the beauty that is Izumi. Izumi's hair was short. She wanted longer hair in a prettier style, maybe a braid, but she had to keep it as boyish as possible to keep up the facade. Atop her head rested something she feared she'd never again see, let alone wear: her mother's favorite head comb. She thought it was destroyed or lost when Inko died. Mitsuki explained that that fear was actually true, but she found it destroyed and only the lotus that was atop it survived. She had intended on giving this gift to Izumi on her 16th birthday, but it seemed fitting to give her the gift now. Yes, I took a liberty with the birthday. I said it's been 2 months, right? So it's currently December right now. The house usually celebrates it on Christmas since it's close to it. Back to the description of the recreation of her mother's treasure. The comb was supposed to have a white diamond lotus adorning it. However, there were now 3 flowers on the comb: a blue rose to the right and a green rose to the left. There was also a lotus emblazoned into the base of the comb that seemed to have a topaz-like shine. Just to be clear, the roses are in perspective: sapphire for the blue rose and emerald for the green rose. This comb is expensive, but it's an heirloom, and it is an utter masterwork. And as far as the lotus emblazoned in the center, it was topaz, or at least the grooves had traces of topaz in it. Happy birthday. We love you more than life itself. On the card that Mitsuki handed her was exactly what she just said, followed by a signature: Mitsuki Bakugo, alongside a lesser symbol of the house stating that they were servants. The entire Midoriya family, regardless, sorry, With this one gift, Mitsuki had represented the entire Midoriya family, regardless of their status of life. The diamond lotus was Inko, the topaz lotus emblazoned into the base was her father, and the roses were her brother. She would treasure this gift for all her life. It was at that point that she realized that her family had given her the greatest present ever. The ability to be herself at long last. She wouldn't waste time as to how long they had been plotting to help her come out. It's clear that they had all adored her. She took this moment to cry. Mitsuki helps Izumi with the dress and holds out white thigh highs and arm-length gloves. I think I can handle this. Besides, Katsuki's getting jealous. The look on Katsuki's face was priceless. She and Hikari are mad that Mitsuki essentially hogged all the fun parts for herself, but hey, she's the head maid. She'll do what she wants, so long as the Midoriyas allow it. I'm the head maid, and Izumi is having a debutante. It is well within my right to do this. Now, you two, Our Lady needs her ensemble looking their best. Izumi sits and watches Mitsuki dress her daughter. The gloves and thigh highs are the same in design, white with black roses on them. The dress itself was emerald green with accents of white. A pair of heels is handed to her. I say heels, but they're not that high. Without heels, Izumi's sitting at 6'6". So, unless your name's Toshinori Yagi, Atsuhiko, and maybe, no, not even Endeavor. She's taller than Endeavor. Well, unless your name is Toshinori Yagi or Atsuhiko Midoriya, she's going to tower over you. One more thing she realized about the comb was that its possession was clear that she was now the matriarch in waiting. Now back to the heels. The heels, just like the comb, were inversed to Izumi's eyes and fit the rose motif to make the dress really pop. I don't know much about women's fashion, but I know pretty when I see it. So, on to the actual ball. Tenya and Toshinori were at the manor 6 hours early and are now just stone cold bashing on the remainder of the day's lunch. Chicken, rice pilaf, and baby back ribs. Well, looks like you two are enjoying yourselves. I'm sorry it took so long. To be clear, she's using atashi instead of her usual boku. That's the effeminate way of saying I versus the more boyish way of saying it. Mitsuki kind of broke her of that habit in the time that she was dressing her. Izumi sat down and took a drink of grape juice that was offered by a butler. That's when Toshinori and Tenya look up. Both of their jaws drop, and they drop the ribs back on their plate. Izuku was effeminate looking, but this person in front of them was 100% without a doubt female. Toshinori snaps out of it first and comes to the right conclusion. He hugged Izumi. You look wonderful, dear. Atsuhiko! We need to have a few words, you and I. The Midoriya patriarch could sense a disturbance in the force long before he was yelled at. We don't have time for that, but in short, Toshinori ripped Atsuhiko a new one. Tenya and Izumi had a more touching conversation. Me? So, it was Izuku that... Was it your father or your mother that was in denial? Tenya jumped to the proper conclusion as well. She could only hope that most people would, but she wasn't going to hold her breath on that one. Tenya was looking at her, and I mean really looking. Like what you see, Tenya? Tenya sighed. Izumi, had you told me 1 year earlier, this might have been able to happen, but I'm spoken for. I'll tell you who she is at the gala you're throwing. It really has been a long time since a Midoriya party was thrown. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I should have. Izumi leans down and kisses Tenya on the cheek. Don't worry about it, Tenya. Had I told you 1 year ago, would I really have stood a chance? Once again, Izumi is way taller than Tenya. She's 6'6", and she's wearing heels right now, so you get the point. She's also very fit, so were she not pretending to be a boy, she probably would have been called an Amazon in jest. But back to the story. Tenya says yes, but tells her not to focus on what could have been and instead focus on what is. That got a smile out of her, and they spent the time till the gala just hanging out and talking like they usually would, only in this case, Tenya treated Izumi like, well, a girl. Izumi changed out of the dress for that time and into something a little more comfortable. Tenya's fiance arrived an hour before the gala was to be held. Tenya asked for Izumi's permission to ride the coattails of her debutante to announce his pending nuptials, and she said yes. How could she say no to that? She was practically the maid of friggin' honor. Or, I guess, best woman in this case, but is that the term for... Oh, whatever. Back to the story. Out of a limo pops one Momo Yayarozu, soon to be Momo Ida. I know that men in Japan have to be, I believe, 18 to marry, and women can be 16, but we're just taking this because they're announcing their marriage. It's not like they're actually getting married. At this point, Izumi is back in the dress and Momo sees this. She is immensely confused to why Izuku is pretending to be his dead sister, until she got close and really checked her out. To be clear, Momo is straight, but she was having some issues on where to look. Me? She nods her head. Momo runs to her, pushes her man out of the way, and hugs the living hell out of Izumi while crying. I thought you died. Why didn't you at least tell me? Izumi explains that those two were a match made in heaven. Also in the fact that they are horrible at lying. And she was glad that she was done lying to herself and, retrospectively, them. She also explained how hard she had been mentally messed up by her mother, and the two were gasping. Your mother did what to? Just let it go. What's done is done. She's gone. Let it go. All right, they both said. Now, another thing they both said in unison is, you're the maid of honor. That got a smile out of Izumi. And they went to a certain sitting room to wait until it was time for Izumi to step into the light. Hello, everyone. I'm sure you're wondering why Izuku is wearing a dress. Well, Izuku isn't. I am Izumi Midoriya. Izuku was the one that passed, and while I won't speak ill of the dead, my mother couldn't handle losing him. She made me lie to myself so hard that when I looked in a mirror, I saw Izuku. However, once I started to develop, it became quite hard to lie to myself. When I truly deprogrammed myself, I came to hate my parents for taking my life from me. But then I realized that everyone deals with loss differently, and I kept it going until now. I will not lie on my hero exam. I am done living this lie. Daddy, Izuku is dead. Mother is dead. I am not. Accept it. I am done. Izumi kissed her father on the cheek and went to dance with anyone who would have her. There were a handful of people that knew the truth. Inko had used her quirk, Gossip Hotline, which sort of works like Rumor from Umbrella Academy, on her own daughter and husband. That's how bad she fell. And Izumi didn't want to besmirch her name any further than necessary. With that over and done with, she suggested that her two friends wait until the night was almost over to announce themselves. That act was hard to follow. Endeavor offered Izumi a hand, and they had a dance and a small discussion. He apologized to her. He had his suspicions, but didn't act on them. She thanked her uncle. Yes, I said uncle. Endeavor's like family, so is Toshinori. But back to the point. She She essentially told him not to worry about it. There wasn't much that he could have done anyway. With that, she went back to the line of men and women. They know she has taste for both, waiting to, well, dance with her. When she got to Shoto, took you long enough to get fed up with it. Izumi blinked and replayed every single conversation she ever had with Shoto. Not once had he called her Izuku. He used the nickname Deku that she took as her own, or called her by her last name, but not a once did she call her Izuku. He frigging knew the whole time. How? He says something along the lines of, "That would be telling," and walks off to enjoy a small meal with his family. In this one, his mother never really lost it at him. His mom and dad were having an argument which involved her throwing hot soup towards Endeavor. However, said hot soup hit Shoto, and they both immediately rushed to their baby to, well, help him heal. This landed them both couples counseling instead of landing Ray in a psych ward. Subsequently, Shoto is also not going to have the same problem Ken and Shoto did with using his fire. So this will be fun. Hey, don't walk off. I've got more questions to ask. And it was at that point that Mitsuki magically appeared behind her Izumi. I'm sorry, dear, but was that an ore I heard coming from you? That's not how a lady refers to herself. Izumi gulps. I assure you, my dear Mitsuki, it shall not happen again. The rest of the night was rather fun for all who partook in the festivities. Even the staff were happy. It's been ages since they've been able to flex their muscles in this sort of respect. The Midoriya household was back in action, and they loved it.